Hello, everybody. My name is Tiffany. I'm the Tipsy Artist. Cheers. And today we are going live to teach you how to paint this adorable snowman. So he has all the lovely elements that we love this season. He's got some buffalo check and some shiplap. Really super cute. I love his super sweet little face. Just kind of turns out that way sometimes. So he is brand new. I don't actually have him on the website yet because he's so new. I'm painting him for the first time today. So we'll see how he turns out, but I'm going to post him on there. And then what is this? This is a gift certificate. I know I'm going to do a quick little shameless plug right now, but we've always had these gift certificates that are good for our live classes. But now for the first time ever, we have gift certificates on our website that are good for all of the online purchases. So you can get somebody a gift certificate that is good for any painting kit, and they can go on there and pick out whatever they want. So you don't have to worry about shipping times or the size or getting the right decor. They can pick all that out for themselves. And theirs will look different than this. It'll actually have like a real literal like cash value that they can use and plug into the system and purchase whatever they want online. So that's pretty cool. So we have that for the first time ever, and it's just under gift card in the main menu. So check that out. And again, those are all instant digital. It can be there for you just within a quick little, just push of a button. Yay. All right, so there's that. Now let's go ahead and get on to the awesome painting now. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and start with all of our background first. So it is a beautiful shiplap, and I have some lovely paint all ready to go. So I have some titanium white and some Mars black here that's nearby. And I'm going to go ahead and start with a pretty big brush to begin with. So there it is. And we have lots of different brushes for sale on our website. The kit always has basically this little cute trio here, which definitely works. You can use Mama for the big parts, and then Little Buddy, and then Little Bit. So that's a sweet little family there. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and use this big brush here. I'm going to grab a nice big dollop of white, tiny little touch of the black, mix that together. I'm going to create just a really pretty light heather gray here. Very light, very pretty. And then I am going to just get some stuff out of the way. And then I'm going to go ahead and just go back and forth on the canvas. So this is a really easy stroke. Super easy, just back and forth. And I try not to lift off pressure until I'm completely off the canvas. That way you don't get a lot of choppy brush strokes in there. And then I'm going to see this line will actually bleed through, so I don't even have to worry about doing a lot of precise cut-in work. You can see that how it's already starting to bleed through there. So I can be a little bit sloppy with this. I try to make everything extremely easy with the process so that you can just focus more on the relaxation part of it and not so much on the technical part of it. So all of our kits come with a permanent marker and transfer paper, pencil. You can do this entire traceable so it comes out just like this. And then I encourage you to use the permanent marker that comes with it and do a hard line edge so that you get a little bit of this bleed through, and it keeps all of your tracing intact, and it just makes the process a lot easier for you. So just quick little brush strokes here of this light gray coming in on the sides. And I know I'm being a little bit sloppy here on the edge, but I'm going to come back and correct that here in a little bit. So again, this is just a really pretty light gray. And our permanent marker is showing through. So that's done with some intention. We definitely want that to happen. All right, so our paint is all nice and wet. And so we can go ahead and come into a little bit of this black here to begin with again. I'm going to do a nice little drag here, just very light hand, and from the side, just kind of sweep that in. So what that does is that creates a little bit of that look like it's old weathered wood here. And I'll do just a little bit on each side. and just barely have that little. So what I did, let me show you this again here too. So I've got just a little bit of black off to the side. I'm going to actually wipe off some of that. I don't want it to be too heavy. And then this paint is definitely still wet, so it gets a nice little bit of a soft blend into that wet paint. I hold that brush parallel to the canvas. That gives the flat side of the brush a chance to just, graze right over the top. And just barely touch it and just lightly drag it across. And just tiny little amounts. Just a slight sweep across the canvas. All right, and then that's all we need, and that gives it that really beautiful old weathered wood look. All right, so we're going to go ahead and rinse out this brush. And then let's go ahead and start with, let's see here. Let's do the white of the face here on the beautiful little snowman. So I'm going to use my mama brush now. She's a 1/2 inch flat Taklon brush, golden Taklon. All right. And don't worry about keeping all this information in your head as I go, because I always post all the supplies and give a link to where you can find everything in the description. So that makes it really nice and easy on y'all. And I'm just sweeping pure titanium white right over the surface. And again, you can just kind of do a little bit of firm pressure here, because I definitely want all this detail work to show through, because I've done my line work initially with permanent marker, so it definitely bleeds through. So this allows you to come in with your background but not lose the hard work of your trace in the beginning. And we're just going to sweep this around and then just fill this in. And then I'll be coming back over the top of this later with more detail. And so what's nice is you can either do that with paint, or you can just come right back in with the permanent marker too. And that's super, super easy. Very easy, very fun. All right, now we also have just white that needs to work into this part of the body. And this is a really fun project to do with your family, or as like a couple painting. So you could almost do, I don't know, if like you could do a girl snowman and a boy snowman. So you could change the colors of your outfit. Maybe add some eyelashes on your little eyes if you want. Make it a little bit more girly. So we're all looking for stuff to do right now, while a lot of us are trying to stay home. So this is a really fun creative project that you can do at home. All right, so beautiful. So we have all of our white done there. Now I'm also going to go ahead and just work in a little bit of our white in the buffalo check here. So we've got, I went ahead and pre-planned this. And so basically what I do is let's just start somewhere. And of course you can have this as a model to go by too, but every other square would be black. And then to keep my head on straight as I continue this process and not get too loopy and get off track, basically just in quadrants, up and to each side and down around every single black square, then you want to have gray. And I just took a pencil and then just kind of light shade, and that's going to be where my gray will be. And then whatever drops out in that negative space, that will just be my white. So very simple, especially with these really big squares. It doesn't become too overwhelming. And I just try to give a little bit of texture here with the white paint. Just a nice smooth stroke in there. A little bit of white out here. And then when I come back at the very end and do a hard line around this, that'll really make that pop right back out to the front again. Just a little bit more here. Okay. Oh, I forgot to do my gray. See, I almost had a little moment. So down here, let me go ahead and reference this so I don't forget that. So there it is. All right, so now we can go ahead and work in some grays. And in fact, we have that worked up. So let me go ahead and take the little buddy brush. This is my cute little buddy brush. He's a 1/4 inch flat. And I'm going to go ahead and work into the white and then a little bit of black. Isn't that lovely? So I'm going to keep it fairly light so that I have some nice contrast. That's awesome. Just kind of a nice medium gray right there. So I'm going to go ahead and paint into these little squares. And with this traceable, of course, I've got the pattern work done with the buffalo check, so that makes it super easy. But if you are doing it at home and trying to freehand it, I would recommend just using a basic ruler and making that the size of your square. That way you don't have to overthink it too much. And I wouldn't be too concerned about the curly lines coming through here. I wouldn't mess with that. I would just go ahead and just block out your squares. Focus on that first and just do, all of your pattern. And then you can easily come through afterwards and then just make a nice curve of a line that represents a little bit of that scarf that happens in the foreground. That is the easiest way to do that. So, and we like easy. All right, so again, just working in this beautiful gray color. And it always looks a little bit raw and definitely unrefined in the beginning, but when you get those black lines in at the end, it'll really help make all of this really pop. But right now we're just working on getting our color blocking down with our lighter shades first here. So I'm still working on this light gray. It's looking good. And if you get a little bit of white peekaboo happening there, you can also add just a little bit of water to the mix. Helps the paint become a lot more fluid and really flow into that space on your canvas. One other caution when working with water is I encourage you to always place the canvas flat. So with this size, this is an 11 by 14, and with this size and smaller, definitely always encourage you to work with the canvas on a tabletop surface. It actually makes it, I think, a lot easier because it does give you that freedom to add a little bit of water when necessary, and then you don't have to deal with any water runs that can really interrupt your process. So those can be kind of challenging to correct when you have those. They tend to erase through surfaces. And also, if you can just imagine, have it coming through your snowman face, it wouldn't be fun, for example. I think with more people working at home, they are enjoying these little smaller, more tabletop sizes. No easel required. And a lot more flexible to work on basically any table at home, which is nice. I'm kind of running out of my gray, so I'm going to dip a little bit more black in with the white. It's looking good. A bit more black. And again, this is just a flat Taklon brush, 1/4 inch. The Taklon material to me makes it a lot more of a firm brush, helps it maintain its stamina a lot more, which I like. So I'm going to hold the brush a little bit more like a pencil to make a nice thin line edge. And now I'm going to change it and hold it more like parallel to the canvas. That helps me have much better coverage over the surface area. All right. And that's a good start. I'm going to wait and do the black at the very end. So it's still going to look a little bit rough for a hot minute here. All right, let's go ahead and work on that cute little carrot nose. So let's see here. In your kit, we have a big paint set that comes with everything. I'll just give you a quick, it's really nice. Ta-da, paint. So it's really good quality. It's actually very thick. So that's another reason why I encourage you to have your canvas flat so that you can add a little bit of water to it, because it's a higher grade, more heavy bodied paint than regular student paint. All right, so we're going to be using a little bit of this cadmium orange. I'm going to do a little, we don't need that much. I'm using a little pea-size amount here off to the side. Now I'm going to take my little bit brush now, and I'm going to do a little twist here into the paint. This loads it up, but it also twists it into a nice fine point. And then we're just going to work into this little shape here. Just a long triangle. And we're just going to fill this in. At first, with a small brush like this, you'll notice it's a little bit choppy. And you're going to see maybe a hint of transparency. So we're going to have to come back in. We're going to get that first coat down. But when we come back in, we want to get a nice layer of paint right on top here. So I'm going to go ahead and hold it more like parallel to the canvas. Light, gentle hand. And just fill in completely. So that gives me a much more opaque finish right over the top. All right, that is looking so cute. Okay, next we're going to do some of those holly leaves. So we're going to go ahead and get some of our cadmium green. Do a little pea-size amount over here to the side, and then also some bright yellow green. All right, so I've washed off my little bit brush, dried it off. Now I'm going back into these two shades here. And again, just two little pea-size amounts, about all you need. Yay! I should have said hi to everybody earlier. I'm so sorry. Hello, everybody out there. And thank you, Becky. Yeah, it's a great one. Yay! I'll come back to your quote and provide you the link. I need to load this up. This is a brand new painting for me. And so I'm going to take a picture of it and then I'm going to load it up on the website. That's how new it is. It's very, very new, like right now, like just now doing it. All right, so this is my little bit brush. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint into these cute little holly leaves. And for this stroke, you just really want to hold it just like you would hold a pencil so that you can have a lot more control and get into those smaller spaces. And then as you go to fill in, you'll want to go ahead and turn that brush just a little bit more like over to the flat side. That will help you fill in and get a nice feathering out of the brush strokes, and it really helps fill it in to the center. Because at first, when you do hold the brush more like a pencil, then it does give you precision, but it tends to really dig into that paint. So then I have to feather out those little brush strokes. All right, so that's looking good. Now we're going to go over to the other side, and again, bright yellow green, cadmium green. Just mix those two together. Oh, I didn't hit my mic that time, at least. It's just my camera. I'm getting better about hitting the mic, thank goodness. It's not pleasant for you, the listener. All right, so fill it in. Again, this is cadmium green, bright yellow green, just a nice equal mix of both of those. And then I want to go ahead and just feather it out, hold that brush more over to the side. And then we're going to come in and clean that up a little bit too here in a moment. Nice feathering out of those brush strokes. Get a nice solid amount of paint right over the top. Okay, so there we go, little holly leaves there. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of cleanup. Run that little curve. Now I put a little puddle of water there. And then this is just a helpful tip in case you do have, sometimes we hit the canvas inadvertently and get a big boo-boo, if you will. So you can take a Q-tip or just kind of get a little piece of paper towel. It just goes directly down and lift straight up. Then it will remove that paint if you have that water down, if you catch it pretty quickly. So I do want to show you that. A lot of beginners request that move because it's very helpful if you have like little tiny boo-boos. And then you can just come right back in, fill in. All right, now let's do beautiful little holly berries. So in our kit here, we have a primary magenta. And you want a little pea-size amount of that. And then we also have some cadmium red. Now, cadmium red is rather warm, so I like to do an even mix of the two, and that gives me a nice cool red. All right, so let's do a little bit of that. So that is beautiful. That's what I want. Still using my little bit brush. And I'm just going to spin this in a little tiny circle. These are the little holly berries. So hold it like a pencil and just spin it in a circle. Let's do one more. I want that to be a little bit bigger. And then you can also give another layer of paint right over the surface, a little delicate holding of the brush right over to the side to help give that one more coat. All right, so that is looking really good. progress. All right, now we want a nice little creamy color for the little hat band here. So I'm going to grab, it's getting stuck here. All right, so we've got some cadmium yellow. Let's put that down where you can see it. This may be a brand new bottle. No, not quite. Do a little pea-sized amount of that. All right, little bit brush again, nice and clean. And then we've got a little bit of white. We're going to work this into that cadmium yellow. Now you can keep it really bright like this, which is quite lovely, or you can mute it a little bit to where you can make it a little bit more like a khaki. So let's show you how to do that. Let's just do a tiny little amount of the black. So it kind of depends on what you're going for, but you can make a khaki color. So you see how this gets a little bit more like creamy, kind of old world feeling, a little bit more muted. So I'm going to go ahead and subdue mine a little bit with this color in here. So all I did, again, was just cadmium yellow, white, and then just a small touch of that black. And then I actually had to come back in and correct with a lot more white too. So that black can be pretty overpowering. We're just going to work right into this little hat band here. And you really have to get a fine point in some of these little areas. So I have to do a little spin here with my fingertips so it still keeps the brush loaded with paint, but then it twists it out to a nice fine point. So I'm going to need that when I come into this little area right in through here. And I would recommend, when you're working at home, just going ahead and waiting for that red to maybe set up and dry. You can also hit it with a hair dryer if you're a little bit impatient. But this can be a little bit challenging if you do happen to touch the red, and it will bring a pink or a mauve into it, which you don't want. So I think it'll be easier on you and serve you well to just either wait or, again, dry it with a hair dryer. And that way you don't have to worry about accidentally getting a blend in with that wet red paint. I'm going to get really close. Nice, delicate hand, just being really careful. See, I got a little touch there, but I'll go ahead and just do a quick little lot of that cream right over the top to help save it. There it goes. All right, that is looking really good. Okay, so we're almost to the point where we really just have a lot of black that we need to work in. So we're going to give our cute little bit of break. Lights her off to the side. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do some black now. So I'm going to work in with my mama again. So here is my mama brush and just pure black paint. Let's press back and forth into that black. And we want to make sure that we maintain a nice thin, let me get in the camera, nice thin line edge. So that will help you have more control around the edges here. So it makes it a lot easier to have the longest line edge you can to work around the long line edges. Because if you go with a smaller brush, the hand has a tendency to get the shakes a little bit, and it's a little bit more challenging. Of course, the good news is with an old hat like this, if your hand does get a little bit shaky and your lines become a little bit uneven, that can work in your favor for this hat, because this hat is supposed to be kind of old and weathered. It's kind of like taking Grandpa's old hat from the closet. It's probably had a bunch of stuff laying on top of it, so it's bent and misshapen. and come around this little curve here. And if you get a little bit of peekaboo in your black paint, you can always add a little bit of water to it. Okay. And then again, that water will help it be more fluid and smooth and just rest right on the canvas. It gets in those little tiny white holes that kind of peek through, like you see here. That water helps permeate that space. It's looking good. And we just need to do the little top part here. Now, the holly leaves are pretty tiny around the edges. So as I get close to those and have to do the cutting work, I will definitely want to switch my brush. We're going to switch over to Little Buddy. We'll get around what we can with Mama, but oh, and then again, maybe I can do all of it with Mama. Probably not, but we'll get as close as we can. Yeah, that's going to get kind of tight in there. Now I'm going to smooth out these brush strokes because I don't want them to dry with some choppy transparency happening. So a little smooth finish here right over the top. And let's go ahead and go back to, actually I'm also seeing I need to fix this in here too. I'm going to go in with my cream one more time, make this match. That's looking better. A little bit of a correction there. All right, way to go. Now let's go ahead and work in with a smaller brush. So I'm going to take my little bit brush here and let's go in with some black. We have some tiny little areas to work in here. So a little tiny curve around that holly berry and then the holly leaf. And this is a really easy hold. You just hold the brush just like you would hold a pencil. That will definitely help you have a little bit more control. And then let's see here. I want to work into this smaller area here. There it is. And hello to everybody out there. Thank you so much for joining me today. We will be posting this on the website as soon as I'm done. This is a brand new painting for me. So this is my first time to paint it. I did the sketch and then I just love the little face and how it turned out. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of some outlining around our holly leaves. So I want to make sure and get a nice fine point here. Our paint is kind of rich and thick, so I'm going to add maybe a little bit of water here, and let's go ahead and spin it out into that paint. Make sure we have a nice fine point, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little outline. This will really help that holly leaf just pop right out over the top. And then a little curve. I'm going to make this one taper. Nice fine point. continuing on here, and I need to add a little bit more water just to really make sure that I get a nice fine point and that it's very fluid and works all around the shape of that little holly leaf there. And then we have another little line right through the center. Reinforce those little curves around the outer edges. It's looking good. All right, and then I've got another little line here. I got to watch this pinky because I've been dipping it into the paint, and I want to make sure it doesn't spot up my cute little face. So I got to be careful with that. All right, now we're going to go ahead and do a little curved line. I always put my pinky down. I do that and I got to watch it. So, because I use it to stabilize my hand a lot, and then I got to watch, make sure I don't put it down into a big white space. That would not be good. All right, so starting to work in the hard black line around the curves. And this is still my little bit brush, so it's working quite well. To make a big curve here around the face. And then when we get into more of the precise lines, then I'm going to switch over to Little Buddy so that I can let the line edge of the brush do the work for me. I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. But Little Bit is great for spaces that have curves to it because she's a little more flexible with the curves. But then when we get to straight lines, then the brush becomes a little bit challenging. It can be a little bit shaky and not very precise with a long line edge. And we got one more curve there. And then this is where I make a curve that comes in front. This is that part of the scarf that's coming out into the foreground. So that's what's happening here. So that does interrupt the pattern a little bit, but it's still, again, you can feel that that part of the scarf is just a fold that comes out in front. So that's really nice how that works. All right, and then we've got a little bit of our black work that we can do in here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I need to make sure my pinky's nice and dry. Don't want to get anything on that, but just do a little circle here. And you can also do this with your permanent marker too. And these don't have to be just real perfect because a lot of times with a snowman, the idea is that these were like little black rocks that were picked up in the yard. So they can certainly have that feeling of being a little bit imperfect. I think that's pretty charming. And then I'm going to spin this out to a nice fine point and just do the little edge here for the grin. And then our little happy face. I'm going to rinse out really good. I have a tiny little, I don't want too much water on this, but I'm going to do a little bit of a cleanup. See how that just kind of lifts right off because I extended the brush a little bit beyond that line. I didn't like that, so I just lifted it off with just a tiny amount of water. So we're all good there. All right, so now let's go ahead and switch back to Little Buddy. It's a little 1/4" flat brush. I'm going to go ahead and push into a little bit of this just black paint. And now we're going to overlap our pattern here. Just work into the black part of that buffalo check. And then we'll also let the line edge of the brush come in and get those lines again. And we'll just fill this in. And this will definitely help it look a lot more finished. And then keep in mind too that you can also use your permanent marker for this too. Our main objective is to keep this very easy for y'all. So that's what we try to focus on. All those little tricks. And a lot of people are in shock when I say permanent marker and they say, really? That's allowed? Yeah, absolutely. And then if anybody challenges you on it, you can just tell them that it's a mixed media piece, and then that's going to make you sound like you're a real pro. But basically all that means is that you're mixing the materials that you use to make a painting. All right, so just continuing to fill in black and then make our line work a little bit more precise. And you do want to check your brush a little bit, make sure that it's still maintaining a nice thin line on the end. Whoops, sorry, I'm getting framed there. So as I press in to load up the brush, I give some firm pressure so that it does load up the brush with paint, but it also maintains that nice thin line edge too. So that really helps a lot. So like right now, I'm just working on getting those lines down. You can also just do all these lines at first with your mama brush too, and then do your fill-in work. That's also a really easy way to do it. All right, now let's go ahead and fill in. We just have a few more little black squares to go. Oh, and I need to get that with gray. I just now saw that. That'll be easy. That's been driving somebody crazy for a while. They've been like, I hope she gets that gray spot right there. It's probably been driving somebody nuts. All right, so now let's go ahead and pull in that gray right there. Okay. And then if you need to give a second coat, you certainly can. Help work that in. You find some transparencies, give it a second coat. I'm going to do a little bit of a light shadow here around that carrot nose. So I'm going to make some brown. So I've got my orange all loaded up, and then a little bit of black with orange makes brown. So that's a nice little lesson too. And I want to make sure it's nice and thin on the edge. There it is. You see that? A bit of a line edge around our little carrot here. And then I want to give a little bit of a pattern, light pattern here with our carrot. So you know carrots have that little bit of a parenthesis shape, the lines that run through it. So just very subtle, just a little. It's kind of fun. I'm going to go back over that with the orange, make it a little bit more subtle. Just a little hint of that. There, it's looking good. All right, now we need some white accents. So here's a little trick. We're going to make some little flash points over the tops of the berries. So I'm going to take my little bit brush and just go right into that white. And there it is on the end of my brush. And then I'm just going to dot down for little flash points of light over the tops of the berries. And then you can also do some little flash points. Hold on, I'm going to grab this little berry. Needs a little touch right there. Just saw that. You can also do little flash points in the eyes too. So same little technique. I want these to be a little bit smaller, so I'm going to go ahead and just dot into those eyes. See how that just gives him like light in his eyes and some really fun, it's just a really happy, fun expression there. All right, now I'm going to do just a few little white accents. A little bit of red. Let's get rid of that. Let's try that again. All right, so we've got just a little bit of this white sketch. Just kind of helps different patterns kind of pop out again. We're going to do a light little echo here of the holly leaves. And then I want a little bit more white happening on that hat band too. So I'm going to go ahead and come in. Actually firm this up a little bit more and do a little bit of a thicker band in here. And a little bit of water to get rid of that little peekaboo happening there. Just kind of brightening this up a little bit. And then you come back in just right over the top, just a tiny little hint of the black. I just have a few more little white highlights to do on the Holly leaves here. Looking good. And I think we can call that done. Yeah, it's cute. All right, so, oh, you know what? I forgot to reinforce the shiplap. Hold on, not quite done. So glad I saw that. That's important. All right, so let's go back to our mama brush, and let's go back into a little bit of that black, and I want it to be a really dark charcoal. Now, I will say, with our kit, you've got your permanent marker. That's how these lines are done. You can just leave it just like it is, but a lot of people want a little bit more of a painterly quality right over the top. So I mixed up a little bit of this charcoal, got a nice thin line edge. You can see how that's going to be really easy to use. And then I'm just going to do a light coat right over those lines. And you can actually use a ruler to go up underneath your brush to help guide it so it doesn't go off track. You just want to make sure that your canvas is completely dry. And then also, as you move your ruler and do other lines in a different spot, really important that you wipe off your ruler completely before you move it to another section, because it'll have wet paint on it, and then you could end up putting a big black line through the center of your snowman face or some other part. That would not be very much fun at all. So you have to clean that ruler every time you use it. All right, see, now I did that one just in a free-handed way, but if you're looking at that going, oh my gosh, that scares me to death. Again, you could just, on a very completely dry canvas, you could hold your ruler down right on the surface and run your brush right on top of the edge to go all the way across. But again, before you move it, clean off that ruler completely. Make sure there's no extra wet paint before you move it to a different location. And it works like a charm. It's pretty lovely. All right. So now I think we're done. Okay. All right. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been so much fun as always. And I will go load this cutie pie up on the website. You can find everything you need at tipsyartist.com. And then I'll be sure to provide the link for everything in the description and by everybody's comment too. So y'all have a beautiful day, and I'll see you soon. Mwah. Toodles.